Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. I have the pleasure of another success story interview here with Lisa from Canada. And I'm just going to let her kind of take the lead here and tell us a little bit about her journey, what kind of symptoms she's had, where she was, where she is now, and kind of what helped her get through all this progress. So welcome, Lisa. I really appreciate you being willing to jump on the on an interview here. And
Great.
how's everything
Thanks,
going?
Dan. Thank you. Feels like I'm meeting a celebrity. Maybe that's a little hangover from Academy Awards. Yeah, so TMS, mind body, I have to say that throughout my life, and I'm 59 years old, I wasn't really aware of the terms. 2 years ago, COVID hit this month. In fact, I was sharing with Dan, this is the anniversary for me where I was actually diagnosed with a chronic syndrome called Globus hysterius, which sounds hideous and it is definitely that. It's
Yeah.
like
Which
you
is like
feel like you
throat.
you feel like your throat is constantly closing in, or that there's something there. And it started off relatively minor. Like I thought, oh, that's weird. Maybe it's just, a little bit of stress from the fact that they had just announced we were now working from home. And at the same time, I just lost my mom and was just taking care of my father, who was just admitted on the day that they locked down into hospital. So there was a lot going on. So a lot of big T trauma, little T trauma with working from home, etc. At the time, I was already suffering from very bad back pain. I had been diagnosed, like everybody else, through MRI, ultrasounds, x-rays, that I had scoliosis, but not just, everybody has a bout of scoliosis, but I had the scoliosis and compressed SI joints. So I was encouraged to do 2 surgeries, which just because of the timing with COVID, I didn't actually follow through with that. So now I had this chronic back pain. I had this globus hystericus, and I was trying to take care of my father because the hospitals were in utter chaos, and work as well. So I was parking, I'll never forget this, in front of the hospital, and my brother called me, and he's out of the province. So I had no help, nobody to rely on. And my brother said to me, I know this probably isn't good timing. So immediately I knew that it wasn't good timing. And he said, but I think you should read this book. It's written by this guy named John Sarno. And I was like, are you kidding me right now with everything I'm doing? And he goes, yeah, they really talk about back pain. And my family was concerned because my mobility was becoming extremely limited. And sort of the closer I got to thinking about surgery, the worse it seemed to be getting. So I'm trying to deal with that. I blew him off. So it was getting to the point where I needed to do something. And I'd been to the doctors, and they had a whole thing around COVID and how your appointments were going, and most of them were on the phone. So my doctor was writing prescriptions. So for the Globus, I had gone for another MRI, more ultrasounds, so that they could determine there was nothing wrong. They sent me to a head and neck specialist surgeon. He couldn't find anything, and flippantly, understanding there was probably a lot of stress around doctors as well, he said to me, you're the 50th person I've seen for this Globus thing. And until you people get a hang on your emotions, it's not going to go away. So that kind of started me feeling that I really had to take my health into my own hands and not just rely on the medical community that was completely being taxed out as well. Sure. So I actually did open up Dr. Sarno's the first book I read actually is The Mind Body Prescription.
Nice. I like that one.
Yeah. And then I went on to The Divided Mind. I found that a little more scientific, so I could see where my brother's role was in it, but I was lucky that he had read both books. So I had somebody, not knowing what this stuff was, to converse with. Sure. So I actually fell in love with the man. Then I find out from Nicole was dead. So because I was ready to fly to the US as soon as we could fly. So yeah, unfortunate, he was passed. And so I did I YouTubed everything I could on him, and he led me to actually Caitlin Michaels, who I'm not sure, she was absolutely my person. I felt like Caitlin had this voice that got me out of so many very traumatic situations that could have spiraled even further. And from her, I got on to Nicole Sachs, who again fell in love with, did her mini courses, didn't get to the retreats, but definitely always had the intent of signing up. And had a couple of diversions along the way because I couldn't get into the journal speak. It wasn't my thing. I felt like the more I started going back and the more of the symptoms I was developing and that I had that were chronic, it just wasn't meshing I just wasn't the person for that. So I found actually a mind-body physical doctor, which is extraordinarily hard in Canada. There are very few, very, very few, but I found one and she's amazing. And she got me on to Gabor Mate, and actually she knows of your work. So that was, again, I found another person that understood the language because I was very fraught with speaking to my circle and they just looked at me like, oh, this is hippy dippy, what do you mean? How can you go from going into surgery to all of a sudden talking like this, and how can your mind possibly have control over your body? Anyway, I'm sure everybody else has also had that experience.
Sure.
So I had been written so many prescriptions I had the scoliosis, the compressed SI joints. I got diagnosed with GERD, acid reflux. I then got diagnosed with IBS, diverticulitis, and that's when I actually emailed you, Dan, out of complete desperation and hearing your interview on Dr. Reese. And you actually got back to me and I was like, what? This doesn't happen in Canada. How is this possible? And you had affirmed that you felt my symptoms that I had sent to you were TMS, and I did already know what that was. And I did I went onto your website and did all the work. And yeah, I bought into all of, your entire philosophy and what is behind you. And that constant messaging and the calm reassurance, that helped me. Like that actually, I can actually tell you that the chronic back pain is gone. I have not had surgery. I am doing high impact aerobics. I know that's not what the cool people call it, but that in the day, that's what it was. 2 or 3 times a week, I weightlift, I do yoga, I'm a golfer.
Nice.
My life came back. So the chronic pain.
How bad was the back pain? Like how disabling was it originally?
It was so disabling that just prior to sort of finding out about this journey, I was not able to attend a meeting in another province that was very important to my career. So, I mean, at some points, I couldn't even get down the stairs, and I think that's why my family was so concerned because I live alone and that's a big thing.
Sure.
Very debilitating.
Okay. So now you're golfing, high impact aerobics, lifting weights.
Golfing is probably the biggest one because of the torque.
Supposedly.
Nobody with scoliosis, according to the surgeon, with my big S, should be golfing.
Well, they also believe, the best option is surgery. So
right,
we know about that.
We know.
So what else?
In the interim, it was the diverticulitis, the IBS, the GERD, and the acid reflux, which was all my upper and lower GI tract. I was almost wishing. This is going to sound really bad. I was almost wishing back for the bad back pain to take away from all of these intestinal issues. And I was on so many different medications that functioning was becoming harder and harder, and taking care of my father was becoming more and more challenging.
Because of the medication's side effects and how you felt?
Yes. Medication side effects, and just the fact that a lot of the medications they were giving me didn't work.
Right. Okay.
Then I developed it didn't stop there. My father had actually sadly passed away, but actually passed away, believe it or not, from a UTI that led to a stroke. I ended up having 4 UTIs in 6 months. And the doctor, the first 3 they gave me prescriptions for. The last 3 I had all the symptoms, and when the testing came back, it was negative. So even though I had the symptoms, I didn't actually have the infection.
Right. Which
so
leans
I sort
towards, which leans towards TMS, mind body.
Right.
For sure.
Right. So that became a chronic thing as well. The Globus hystericus took, oh my gosh, it was so emotionally, I can't even tell you. There's days where I didn't want to go on, like having this constant feeling of a golf ball in my throat, and I never had any relief from it. And the doctor started writing me prescriptions, and I don't want to blame the medical community because they were working with limitations with COVID and I couldn't get in to see them, but I'm talking antidepressants, and I didn't consider that was a necessary, muscle relaxants, just a list of things, and a prescription to see a psychologist who I couldn't get in to see because they were 5 to 6 months behind because of all of the COVID anxiety in our city. So yeah, it was just like this, I was on this hamster wheel, and the back pain was so forgotten about after I had suffered with that for 20 years. It was shocking that outside of doing my bit of Sarno work and the podcast, how I got rid of this one thing and these other things evolved, which the symptom imperatives.
So question for you. I know you mentioned Caitlin Michaels.
Yeah.
I'm aware that she used to do a podcast. Is she still doing that, or is she?
I know she did her last podcast and she's gone on to some other things, but she's not doing any work in the community that I've seen.
Because I'm sure some people will be like, oh, Caitlin Michaels, who's that? How can I find her?
Right.
And to my knowledge, she used to have a Facebook group that she ran, and she'd put her podcasts out there maybe a couple of years ago. And then she kind of folded and backed away from the TMS community. But she was very sweet. I don't even remember. I may have even been on her podcast. If not, I know she was very generous and allowed me to post some of my early videos into her Facebook group. So yeah, I just wanted to point out, for anybody who's looking for her, I don't think she's participating in this space as a coach or advisor anymore, to my knowledge.
Right.
You may be able to find her podcast, the old stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think on Spotify, actually, not that I'm giving any plugs, but I think that's, I've Googled her a few times, but she certainly was one of the wordsmiths in the community, and definitely, was my first induction after Dr. Sarno.
Okay, cool. So what else do you want to tell us? I mean, it sounds like a heck of a journey. How's the Globus and the other digestive symptoms at this point?
So here's the thing. The digestive problems were very severe, and I did actually do the thing where I binged the damn series. I watched a whole bunch of them back to back, and I'm not even this is disbelief to my doctor as well. I am on no medication for my stomach. Nothing, nada. I haven't been able to drink red wine for probably 10 years. And I'm not saying I have it every day, but I could if I wanted to.
Awesome.
It's crazy.
And you mentioned
this stuff works.
Yeah, just to be clear, Lisa mentioned Dan's series. Basically what she means is my daily videos.
Yes, the daily videos.
I don't know how clear it was the way you stated it. So
right.
Just want to be very
Binging
clear.
Dan? That's what I call it.
The daily dose of Dan.
Daily dose of Dan, yes.
Some people say that. Or breakfast with Dan, or coffee with Dan, or...
Yeah, mine is usually latte with Dan. But I have to say, the one thing that I think this sort of perpetuated for me is that my therapist was really great. I had a very tragic, death with my mother, and then my father right after that, and, just COVID, and everybody's gone through similar stories. Sure. This isn't fix it. This is a connection with my nervous system and my brain and my mind that I have to constantly work on. And I call it mind management. So my next step will be to join your group so that I have a community that understands the language. And you know, it's because it is difficult to introduce it into a vortex of people that have no idea what we're talking about. And that seems to add some, you know, frustration and anxiety for me, because I have actually had people say, there's no way you were in that bad a state with your back and you didn't have surgery and you're going to the gym 3 times a week. So it definitely, I really want that sort of community that understands the progress and the regret. You know, I have regress moments too. Like I get symptom imperatives when I know it's time to check in with what's going on. And typically I just need a video, a little encouragement from especially one of your morning videos, and I'm back on track.
That's fantastic. So do you have anything that's still persistent, or has everything kind of settled down and just things pop up once in a while?
Yeah, things do pop up once in a while. The Globus was probably my last. I mean, that lasted just about 2 years. So that was probably the thing that seems to pop up more when there is a situation or when I'm feeling that there's some tension or trauma.
Yeah, what I also notice is the symptoms that tend to hold the biggest place of fear and attention.
Right.
And if that is in your throat and you feel like your airways and your throat's closing up and you can't eat well, and to me, that sounds more scary than back pain, right? Because you can kind of rationalize and go, all right, it hurts, but you know, here it's like, what happens if it gets worse and I can't breathe, I can't eat, what, right? And so I'm thrilled that I have you here telling this story, that you are, I'll say, mostly recovered with the Globus. Pops back once in a while, but you know what to do with it to get it to settle back down again. Because I know of a couple of people who have been particularly struggling with the Globus type of a thing, so much to be afraid of speaking because their throat hurts and everything else. And so I'm thrilled to have a success story with that particular symptom. And I know it doesn't necessarily matter. TMS here is the same as TMS in your back, is the same as TMS in your gut. The solution's all the same, but still people love to hear their symptoms in a success story. So I'm thrilled about that for some very specific people. And, you know, once we're done here, I'll probably message 1 or 2 of them and go, guess what? You know, just to get them, you know, because it's not the most common symptom.
No.
It's common, but not one of the ones that are written about in the books. You know what I mean?
Right. In fact, I think when I started the journey down, I kind of kept saying to myself, okay, yeah, but the Globus is different. So I kept going to the doctor. And I have to share, like, this is going to look awkward, but it's the truth. Like, these are the prescriptions over the last 2 years that have not been taken. And that's, again, I don't want to pinpoint the medical community. It is, they do what they do. But I just knew in the back of my head that they could write the prescription, and for the moment it would probably make me feel somewhat better, thinking, okay, well, this is going to help. And then I just knew all along that that wasn't the way to manage these symptoms.
That's fantastic. So you got your life back.
100%. Like, I don't think.
And your friends and family don't believe you.
My brother does, because he started this journey. I have to tell you, though, the ones that it's weird, because the people that were the closer in my community and did, you know, we did social things, etc. I think there was a little bit of, I don't want to say negativity, but almost non-belief, because, you know, knowing my stories for as long as they have, and then seeing the transformation, and maybe it was just sort of that fear of this change in me. Because it changes your whole life. I mean, when you're not in chronic pain and you're not doubled over by stomach issues, or laying on the floor because of back issues, or laying on the couch wondering if you're going to choke, when you're not doing those things and you can go out and do the things you should be, your attitude changes. And I wonder if that's part of it.
Yeah, you weren't the same person they knew.
Right.
And to some people that's threatening, especially if they are still challenged with certain limitations, we'll say.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
I forgot to throw in there the cyanite, the chronic cyanitis for 15 years that I also cured with all of my support with the TMS community, which led to TMJ, which led to tinnitus. I had that for at least 3 years, and there's another thing that can make you go absolutely crazy. And I have
that's
not
gone
taken
too.
any. Pardon me?
Tinnitus is gone also. Another great symptom to have a success on.
TMJ, another one.
Another one. People get really freaked out about that.
Yes.
You got a nice little, lottery ticket full of nice symptoms.
Yeah. That's why I call it the garden variety.
Interesting. But it's just proof that the whole system is all, I like to even say the mind and body are not connected. It's one system.
Right.
So, question for you. Was there I know you said you found a nice therapist and you also found a medical doctor who's TMS, mind body aware. How much of this was emotional work, or was it more geared towards accurate knowledge of what's going on and then more messages of safety? That's my approach. Accurate knowledge to dial down the fear, messages of safety to go, I really don't have a lot to fix. I just got to calm myself, my brain, and thereby my nervous system will calm down. How much of it was that versus perhaps some of the deeper emotional work that seems very commonly recommended in this space? I don't dig deep into that area.
Right.
But
no,
from your standpoint, do you find that was a big part of it, or mostly knowledge and safety?
I'd have to say the constant messaging of calm reassurance. I think bigger than that was the clarity, which does take the work. I wouldn't say doing the deep emotional work was of assistance to me. It might work for some people. It actually put me in a more frightful state. I felt much more comfortable going with your method. It made sense. The clarity made sense to me. And I think that for me, calming a nervous system down, because I'm highly sensitive and perfectionist and all of the things. So for me, I had to have reassurance, because my tendency is definitely I'm going to call it overreact. It's part of what makes me who I am, which is not a bad thing. It's just who I am. So doing a lot of the deeper emotional work wasn't a fit for me.
Yeah. Because some people actually get more sketched out by that, and it raises their entire intensity level emotionally, which feeds the physical, which feeds the mental. And it's just really why I don't really think that's a starting point where we have to start. Some people may need to do that. And I even tell people, if you want to go to therapy, that's great. But I don't know that you need to do that to fix yourself, because at the end of the day, you're not broken. What we have to do is teach the brain that you're actually not broken, which is where the clarity starts. Yes. And then the calm reassurance that goes, I'm actually okay. And when the system and the brain gets the message, you get out of fight or flight a lot more often, which means you can get into rest and recover, and then what happens? The digestive and the immune system start to go, oh, we don't have to stay suppressed anymore, because that's what happens when we're in fight or flight. Digestion and immunity are suppressed, which is why you end up with all this stuff. Right. And when you get out of that and create more messages of safety, calm reassurance, you get out of this, and into the, I'm okay. Yeah. The whole system can return to balance, and now all of a sudden digestion starts working. So diverticulitis no longer diagnosed? Like
no,
that healed up?
It shows up on an actually they did an ultrasound for that. It shows up on an ultrasound, like it's there. But yeah, absolutely.
See, that's the
thing.
And
you had recommended in one of your videos to ask the doctor if there were other people. Obviously, there's people all over the world with diverticulitis, and it is such a horrible thing. I asked the specialist, I said, are there people with diverticulitis that aren't on medication? because they don't have pain. And she
Right.
had to answer yes. I mean, it's the truth. So
Yeah.
I'm now one of those people. Yes, I have diverticulitis if you have to put a brand or a name on it, but I don't take medication for it.
Yeah, 'cause there's no pain.
There's no pain.
That is so freaking awesome.
I was getting cortisone shots in my back, Dan, every 3 months, right in my spine.
That's got to be fun.
Oh, I don't know anymore. I don't have to have them anymore. So that was probably, and that was just in order for me to function to go to my job. That wasn't about going to the gym or even thinking about going to yoga or thinking about golfing. Like that was just to do my day-to-day performance to make a living. So.
Wow. So what's your golf season like? 3 weeks up in
Yes.
Calgary?
Yes, it's a very expensive sport here. Yeah, we certainly don't get many good days. That's for sure. When it's hot, it likes to tipper around, plus 35, 40. And when it's cold, it likes to go to minus 35, 40. So
Can't even imagine.
we get used to our indoors.
I bet. Get some sunlight when you can.
Absolutely.
So what else would you like to share for anybody who's dealing with any one of or many of these symptoms? I mean, what's the core message that you wish? You see, this audience is going to get it. They're going to understand it and they're going to buy into it and say, this makes total sense. Whereas opposed to, we'll say, regular people in our lives who don't have any understanding of this mind-body work. And they'll be like, you're nuts. That didn't really happen. You must not have been that bad. But you're talking to an audience who really understands this stuff. So what would you say to somebody who gets it, as far as they're in the thick of things, they're still struggling, they're having some difficulty believing or, convincing themselves that this is really possible? I mean, any words of encouragement or just...
I think for me, Dan, it's really the clarity part of the piece. I think you have to work through that, and it's so easy to drop off and say, yeah, but it's different for me. My condition is not this. It's it's something medical, and I think that by watching your videos, really that's what sort of punched through all of this stuff. Was just the constant reassurance and the fact that you kept saying there's nothing wrong with you. Have the calm reassurance, have the clarity. You have to stick to it. Like I said, this isn't a Band-Aid solution. It is the rest of your life. I think that once you're aware of mind body and the oneness of it and TMS, you're committed for life. And with that commitment, why wouldn't you want to be pain-free? I mean, makes sense to me. So that's why I think it's really important to join the group. Not just the Facebook group, but to join the group once a week, or if they're able to. I know your sessions are really hard to get into, but I think you need to have that support system. The messaging's not tough, but it's the constant support coming from a professional that's already been through the journey, right, which is you.
Yeah, so the weekly groups are available to anybody. The one-on-one sessions, I'm booked for 6 to 7, 8 weeks now. And I get people begging me, please put me on a waiting list. And I hope somebody cancels. Yeah. So I know I've looked a few times myself, but I feel like my appointment with my psychologist, it's now down to minimum, but I feel like it's a paid coffee date. So that's got to stop, because she's amazing. She's amazing, but she's not on the same journey. It's just time to part and go in a different direction. So I think the group will be good for me. That's great. Keep you on track. And you'll get a chance to share your story there, because I'm sure with the level of, even though you've got things that pop up once in a while, your level of success is very admirable for many of the folks in the group who are fairly new to this. I mean, there are some people who join the group and they're like, I heard about Dr. Sarno 2 weeks ago. And so they're so brand new. And so by all means, if you want to come join the group and hang out with us and really get these messages to sink in and keep it front and foremost in your mind. I've got some people who are in and out in a month, not because they're better, but they get what they need. They got the the core knowledge. They've watched some replays. And I've got other people who have been there since June 1st when it launched. Right. And they're 9 months in, and they're saying, I'm feeling great, but I just love this group. Yeah. You're my friends. You're my family. You're the people who understand me. Yeah. And so it's that type of community. And, there's a whole private Facebook group just for the members of this weekly coaching. And that has taken on a life of its own. People are commenting and posting, and they're talking to each other. And a couple of the people like speak on the phone once in a while. And it's like, it's pretty cool. So unless you've got anything else to add, Lisa, this has been wonderful. You've been great. You've hit, I don't even want to count yet, but at least 10
Me neither.
But I mean, you've done extremely well, and you're going to basically inspire a lot of people, because many of your symptoms seem more physical than back pain, right? Because the back pain, it's written about in the book. It's even on the book cover, healing back pain. But, you look at IBS, Sinitis, Diverticulitis, TMJ, Tinnitus. People are like, those are many of, and the Globus for sure, these are many of the symptoms that people go, I understand TMS, but I think this is different. And so hearing your success with so many different things, that's going to really, I think, open some eyes.
I think in the community, we have to be here to help. And I think if just one last thing I thought of is the commitment. I mean, you have to be continued committed, because the one truth of symptoms, of any symptom, structural or otherwise, is that if they are not consistent, they are TMS. And that's the one thing I found with just about everything I listed to you, is that even though those were actual, diagnoses, they went away. So what's interesting is I don't want anybody to grab onto that one statement, because some people would say, but my pain is consistent. So does that mean it's not TMS? And that's not true. No.
You can still have persistent, consistent sensations, and it's still TMS. So I talk all the time about the various assessments out there. I've got a pain test. Dr. Schubner's got the PPD Association, and there's 30 questions on the symptoms page. And then Dr. Schubner has also been generous to share his FIT criteria: functional, intermittent, and triggered. And there's a whole series of questions, and I posted that in the Facebook community as well. So clarity. And you're singing my song here, because without the clarity, that's foundational. If you don't think it's TMS, mind, body, perceived danger, pain, or symptoms, all the calm reassurance in the world isn't going to work if you're sitting here going, but I have a real problem. Brain's not going to let go. So clarity is really foundational. And clarity. I don't care how much you meditate or breath work you do or yoga and psychology and journaling. If you think it's your body, it's not going to let up.
That's right.
So I'm really, really thrilled that you were singing the clarity song, if you will.
Absolutely. Every morning. Every morning. I have to constantly remind myself, it is consistency. It is when it's all the big C's, it's you have to have the calmness, you have to have the consistency, and the clarity is key. Sure. But I really owe a lot to you, Dan. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for doing what you do and doing it every day, regardless of the conditions outside. Or, it's amazing that you offer this to people, and there's just so much content that you've provided that is so helpful for people that maybe can't afford a psychologist or afford to, join a group somewhere. It's there. And hey, it was my ticket out.
Yeah. And, case in point, like you're talking about joining the group as a good follow-up, but Absolutely. Lisa here hasn't paid me a dime.
No, I have not.
So she's gotten all of this from the daily free videos. So for anybody who's penny pinching, doesn't know if they see the value, at least watch the free daily videos. It'll take no more than 10 minutes of your day. And, there's people all around the globe I'm so blessed. People all around the globe messaging me virtually every day saying, I'm doing so much better, or I'm completely pain free, or whatever it may be, just by watching the daily videos.
Mm-hmm.
And people are dealing with their anxieties and depressions too. And, they're finding it. This type of consistent message of safety has so many benefits beyond just physical symptoms, but also from our mental health. Because so many people are struggling with anxiety and depression because of their symptoms.
Right.
Once you get the symptoms out of the way, it's all of a sudden like, holy shit, life doesn't suck anymore.
That's right.
I'm not anxious and depressed anymore. Right. And so if you're skeptical about this, Lisa's a great example of just how much you can get your life back. There might be a hiccup once in a while, but she now has the tools and she can go, okay,
That's
what's
right.
going on? Stress, emotions, what's going on? Where's my thinking? Am I thinking, physical? Oh, timeout, clarity, come on back into the mind-body world. And so, Lisa, I'm really thrilled with this. You got the right tool set. You got the right mindset. The mindset is key. And so I think people are going to love this interview. Unless you have anything else to say, we'll wrap it up.
No, I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for the community and all the supporters on Facebook. Awesome. Helps me out every day.
Yeah. And believe it or not, the YouTube commenters, there's a core set of people that I see on there all the time. And they're like responding to each other.
Right.
So, yeah, wherever you happen to watch, there's people there to kind of cheer you on. So Absolutely. Thank you again.
Okay.
I appreciate you. All right.
Thank you. All right. Take care.